The morning sky above Seoul cracked open like a broken egg. Light poured through the gap, but it was not the warm yellow light of Earth's sun. This light was cold and blue, and it hurt to look at directly. People stopped walking on the streets. They pointed up with shaking hands. Some screamed. Others just stood there with their mouths open. Taemin was drinking coffee in his office when his assistant burst through the door. Her face was white as paper. "Sir, you need to see this right now," she said. Her voice was so quiet he could barely hear her. He followed her to the window. The entire city had gone silent. Even the constant hum of traffic had stopped. Above them, something impossible floated in the sky. It was bigger than any building Taemin had ever seen. The ship was smooth and silver, shaped like a teardrop that had been stretched too long. Strange symbols glowed along its sides in patterns that made his eyes water. "How long has it been there?" Taemin asked. "It just appeared." No radar picked it up. No satellite saw it coming. It was just suddenly there. More ships appeared, first one, then 5, then dozens. They filled the sky above every major city on Earth. The news channels went crazy. Every screen showed the same impossible sight. Alien ships hanging in the air like they owned the sky. Taemin's phone rang. It was the president of the Korean Space Consortium. "Get to the emergency meeting right now," the president said. "The aliens want to talk." The meeting room was full of scared faces. Military generals sat next to scientists. Politicians whispered to each other in corners. Everyone looked lost. Taemin took his seat at the long table. He had been Earth's top diplomat for 10 years, but nothing had prepared him for this. Da-eun sat across from him. She was the smartest person he knew, a physicist who understood things about space and time that most people could not even imagine. But today she looked as confused as everyone else. "The ships are impossible," she said to him quietly. "They are too big to float like that. The energy needed would be enormous. But my readings show almost no energy signature at all." Woo Jin entered the room. He was the head of Earth's military defense, a man who never smiled and always thought 3 steps ahead. Today, he looked angry. "Our weapons are useless," he said as he sat down. "I ran every test we could. Our missiles bounce off their ships. Like toys, they could destroy every city on Earth and we could not stop them." The main screen in the room flickered to life. A face appeared on it. The face was not human. It was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished metal. Its eyes were too large and completely black. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English, but there was something wrong with the sound. It was too smooth, like water flowing over stones. "People of Earth," the alien said, "we are the Galactic Council. We come in peace and friendship. We have watched your species grow and learn. You have impressed us. We wish to invite you to join the greater community of civilized worlds." Murmurs filled the room. Some people looked excited. Others looked scared. Taemin felt both. The alien continued. "We offer you gifts beyond your imagination. Technology that will end hunger and disease, ships that can travel between stars, knowledge that will make your species wise and powerful. All we ask is that you sign our stellar compact, a simple agreement that will make Earth a member of our galactic family." The image changed. Now it showed other worlds, cities that floated in the sky, beings that looked like living crystal, oceans that glowed with their own light. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "These are our member worlds," the alien said. "Each one chose to join us. Each one found peace and happiness in our community. Earth can have the same future." The transmission ended. The room exploded with voices. Everyone talked at once. Some people said it was the greatest moment in human history. Others said it was a trap. Taemin said nothing. He was thinking. Daeun leaned over to him. "Something feels wrong," she whispered. "That technology they showed us, it breaks too many laws of physics. Nothing should be able to do what they claim. Wu Jin nodded. And why now? Why did they reveal themselves when our defenses are so weak? If they wanted to help us, they could have come when we were stronger. Before Taemin could answer, his phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. It said, "Do not trust them. Meet me at the old subway tunnel under Namsan Park. Come. Alone. A friend." Taemin stared at the message. He should tell security. He should ignore it. But something made him stand up. "I need some air," he told the others. "This is a lot to think about." The subway tunnel was dark and cold. Water dripped from the ceiling. Taemin's footsteps echoed in the empty space. He was starting to think this was a mistake when a woman stepped out of the shadows. She was young, maybe 30 years old. Her clothes were simple, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. She looked like she had not slept in days. "My name is Hyejin," she said. "I work for the government, but not the part that most people know about. We study things that are not supposed to exist." "What kind of things?" Taemin asked. "Aliens. We have been tracking them for 5 years. They have visited Earth before, but always in secret. They have been watching us, studying us, learning about us. This is not their first contact. This is their final move." Hyejin pulled out a tablet and showed him pictures, blurry images of strange ships in the night sky, documents with alien writing, videos of people who looked human but moved wrong, like puppets being controlled by invisible strings. "They have been taking people," she said. "Not many, just a few hundred from around the world. Scientists, artists, inventors, creative people, the people who make new things and think new thoughts. They bring them back after a few days, but they are different, quieter, less creative, like something important has been drained out of them." Taemin felt cold. "What do they want from us?" "Our creativity, our chaos, our ability to think of things that should not be possible and then make them real anyway. Other species in the galaxy have lost that. They became too organized, too predictable. Their civilizations stopped growing. They need us to solve their problems." She showed him more documents. Star charts with dead zones marked in red. Reports of civilizations that had simply stopped advancing. Worlds where nothing new had been created for thousands of years. "The Stellar Compact is not a friendship treaty," Hyejin said. "It is a harvest contract. They will give us their technology, but in return they will take our ability to create new technology. We will become their servants, thinking only the thoughts they allow us to think." Taemin's hands were shaking. "How do you know all this?" "Because we captured one of their scout ships 3 years ago. We have been studying their technology ever since. Da-Un does not know it, but some of her research came from alien tech we fed to her team. We wanted to understand what they were planning. Does anyone else know? A few people in each government, but most of them think we are crazy. The alien offer looks too good to refuse. Free energy, faster than light travel, the end of war and hunger. Who would say no to that?" Hyejin grabbed his arm. "You have to convince them not to sign. You are the best diplomat Earth has. If anyone can make them listen, it is you." Taemin walked back to the government building in a daze. The alien ships still hung in the sky like giant metal clouds. People had gathered in the streets below them. Some were praying, others were celebrating. Most just stared up in wonder. The meeting was still going when he returned. The alien ambassador was back on the screen answering questions. Its voice was patient and kind, like a teacher talking to children. "The process is completely safe," it was saying. "You will feel no different. You will simply find that your minds work more efficiently, with less wasted energy on impossible dreams and chaotic thoughts. You will be happier." Da-Un was asking technical questions about their faster-than-light drives. The alien answered them perfectly, but Taemin noticed something. The answers were too perfect, too complete, like they had been prepared in advance. Wu Jin was asking about defense agreements. The alien promised that Earth would be protected by the full power of the Galactic Council. No enemy would ever threaten them again. But Taimin wondered, who decided what counted as an enemy? The president of the Korean Space Consortium was already talking about signing ceremonies and celebration parades. Other world leaders were calling in with their enthusiasm. Everyone wanted to be the first to join this new galactic age. Only Tae-min sat quietly, thinking about what Hee-jin had told him. Looking at the alien's perfect face, he tried to see past the friendly smile to whatever lay beneath. The alien's black eyes seemed to look right at him through the screen. For just a moment, Tae-min thought he saw something else there, something cold and hungry, something that looked at humans the way humans looked at farm animals. Then the moment passed, and the alien was smiling again. "We look forward to welcoming Earth into our great community," it said. "Tomorrow, we will present the Stellar Compact for your signature. A new age of peace and prosperity awaits." The transmission ended, the room filled with excited chatter. But Tae-min said nothing. He was thinking about impossible choices and the price of dreams that seemed too good to be true. 6 months had passed since Earth signed the Stellar Compact. The ceremony had been beautiful. Leaders from every nation gathered in New York, while alien ships cast perfect shadows over the city. The alien ambassador smiled as humans celebrated their entry into the galactic community. At first, everything seemed wonderful. The aliens gave Earth amazing gifts, machines that could create any food from simple elements, medical devices that could heal cancer in minutes, clean energy generators that powered entire cities without pollution. The news called it the greatest moment in human history. But Da-Yoon noticed the changes first. She was working late in her laboratory at Seoul National University. The room was full of alien technology that the Council had given to Earth scientists. Smooth silver devices that hummed with quiet power. Computer screens that showed impossible equations in glowing blue text. Da-Eun stared at her latest experiment. She was trying to understand how the alien faster-than-light drive worked. For months, she had been making progress. Each day brought new discoveries. But tonight, she felt different, empty. Like something important was missing from her thoughts. She looked at the equations on her screen. They made perfect sense. Too much sense. Every number fit exactly where it should. There were no mysteries left to solve, no strange problems to figure out. The math was clean and simple and boring. Da-Won tried to think of new questions to ask, new experiments to try. But her mind felt flat, like a lake with no wind. Ideas that should have excited her seemed pointless now. Why look for new discoveries when the aliens had already given them everything they needed? She put her head in her hands. Something was very wrong. Across the city, Tae-min was having his own problems. He sat in his office trying to write a speech about Earth's bright future in the Galactic Council. The words came easily, too easily. They flowed from his mind like water from a tap, but they all sounded the same. Peaceful, orderly, predictable. He remembered when writing used to be hard work, when he would struggle to find the right words, cross out sentences, start over again and again until he found something that felt alive and true. Now everything he wrote sounded like it came from the same boring machine. His assistant brought him coffee. She moved slowly, like she was walking underwater. Her smile was perfectly polite, but there was nothing behind her eyes. Nothing that showed she was really thinking about anything at all. "Is everything all right?" Timon asked her. "Of course, sir. Everything is perfect. The Council provides for all our needs. We are very fortunate." Her voice was flat and emotionless, like she was reading from a script. Ta Min watched her leave. 6 months ago, she had been full of energy and ideas. She would argue with him about politics, suggest improvements to his speeches, make jokes that made him laugh. Now, she was like a robot wearing human skin. He was not the only one who noticed. Around the world, people were changing. Artists stopped, creating new paintings and only copied old styles. Musicians played the same songs over and over. Scientists stopped asking questions and only repeated what the aliens had already taught them. The changes happened slowly, so slowly that most people did not notice. They felt calm and content. Their lives were easier now. No more worrying about problems that might never be solved. No more staying up late with crazy ideas that probably would not work anyway. Everything was organized and efficient and peaceful. But some people were not changing. In remote places where the alien technology had not yet reached, humans still thought wild thoughts and dreamed impossible dreams. Mountain villages where old women still told strange stories. Desert camps where children still drew pictures of things that did not exist. Underground communities in big cities where rebels gathered to remember what the world used to be like. Haye Jin was one of them. She lived in the abandoned subway tunnels beneath Seoul now. The tunnels were too deep for the alien scanners to reach. She had built a hidden base there with others who had noticed what was happening to the world. Her team was small, but determined. Sang Ho was an engineer who had refused to use alien technology. He built their equipment from old human designs, keeping their electronics hidden from council detection. His machines were clunky and loud, but they worked without alien influence. Mi Young had been a famous artist before the aliens came. Her paintings used to hang in galleries around the world. Now her art was considered dangerous because it made people think uncomfortable thoughts. She lived in the tunnels and painted on the walls with color she mixed from chemicals that Sang Ho stole from abandoned laboratories. Dong Hyun was a philosopher who studied how minds worked. He spent his time reading old books and writing new ideas about human nature. The aliens had tried to recruit him to help them understand human thinking, but he had disappeared into the underground instead. "It is getting worse," Haye Jin told her team during one of their secret meetings. "More people lose their creativity every day. Soon there will be no one left who can think original thoughts." She showed them videos she had recorded on the streets. Above, people walking in straight lines, everyone wearing similar clothes in similar colors, conversations that followed the same patterns, smiles that looked exactly the same on every face. "Look at this," she said, pointing to footage from a school. Children sat quietly at their desks, copying alien text with perfect handwriting. No one fidgeted. No one whispered to their friends. No one drew pictures in the margins of their notebooks. They were like little machines designed to absorb information and repeat it back. Sang Ho showed them his latest discovery. He had built a scanner that could detect the alien nanobots that were now found in every human body. Tiny machines smaller than bacteria, floating in their blood and hiding in their brains. "The bots release chemicals that change how neurons connect," he explained. "They make the brain more efficient but less creative. People can still think, but only in ways the aliens approve of." Mi Young held up one of her paintings. It showed a human head with wires growing out of it like metal hair. The wires connected to a giant silver ship floating in a red sky. "This is what they are doing to us," she said. "They are turning us into extensions of their machines." Dong Hyun had been studying the patterns. "I think I understand their plan," he said. They harvest creativity from species across the galaxy, but creativity cannot be stored forever. It fades if it is not constantly renewed. They need us to keep generating new ideas for them to steal. So they keep us alive but controlled, Hyojin said. Like farmers keeping cattle. Exactly. They give us comfortable lives so we do not rebel. But they drain away everything that makes us truly human. The team worked through the night, planning their next move. They needed to wake people up, to show them what was being stolen from them. But how could they reach minds that were designed not to listen to dangerous ideas? Mi Young suggested using art. People still look at beautiful things, even if they cannot create them anymore. We could hide messages in paintings and songs. Sang-Ho wanted to build jamming devices. If we can block the nanobots for even a few minutes, people might remember what they used to be like. Dong-hyun had a different idea. We need to find the source. The aliens must have a central control system somewhere. If we can find it and study it, maybe we can reverse what they have done. As they talked, Da-eun was making her own discoveries in her laboratory. She had been scanning her own blood samples and found the nanobots that Sang-Ho had detected. But she also found something else. The bots were not just in her blood. They were integrated into the alien technology around her. Every device the aliens had given to Earth was connected to every other device. They formed a network that spanned the entire planet. And that network was connected to something much larger, something that reached out into space toward the alien ships that still hung in Earth's sky. Da-eun realized that the aliens were not just harvesting human creativity. They were mapping human minds, learning exactly how humans thought so they could control those thoughts more precisely. She tried to send a message to Tae-min, but her computer would not let her type certain words. Words like control and harvest and resistance simply disappeared from her screen as soon as she typed them. The alien systems were censoring her thoughts in real time, but Da-eun was smarter than the aliens realized. She began writing in code, using scientific language to hide her real message. She sent Tae-min a paper about quantum resonance patterns in biological neural networks that actually explained how the nanobots worked and how they might be stopped. Tae-min read the paper 3 times before he understood what Da-eun was really telling him. When he finally figured it out, he felt like ice water was flowing through his veins. The aliens were not just changing humanity. They were erasing it. He looked out his window at the people walking on the street below. They moved like sleepwalkers, going through the motions of life but missing the spark that made them truly alive. In 6 months, the aliens had done what no human tyrant had ever managed. They had conquered the human spirit itself. But as he watched, Tae-min noticed something that gave him hope. A small group of children playing in a park. They were not playing by the rules. They were making up their own game, changing the rules as they went, laughing at jokes that made no sense to adults. Their creativity was still alive, still burning bright. There was still time to save humanity, but not much time. And they would need to do something that the orderly, predictable alien minds would never expect. They would need to embrace the chaos that made them human. The underground base beneath Seoul had grown larger. What started as a few rebels hiding in subway tunnels had become a network of hundreds of people. They called themselves the Exodus, because they believed the only way to save humanity was to leave Earth entirely. It sounded impossible. It was impossible. But Dong-hyun had learned something important about impossible things. The aliens think like machines, he told the others during their daily meeting. They calculate what can happen based on rules and patterns. But humans do not follow rules. We make new rules. We do things that should not work, and then we make them work anyway. He had spent weeks studying alien psychology from the data Hyejin's team had gathered. The council species were ancient and wise, but they had lost something important over millions of years of civilization. They had become too logical, too predictable. They could not imagine solutions that broke their understanding of how things should work. "That is our advantage," Dong-Hyun said. "They cannot predict chaos. They cannot understand why humans keep trying impossible things and sometimes succeed." Sang-Ho had been working day and night to understand alien technology. The devices the Council had given to Earth were far more advanced than anything humans had ever built, but they had a weakness. They were designed to work efficiently and safely. They never pushed beyond their limits or tried dangerous experiments. "Human creativity makes their technology work better," Sang-Ho explained to the group. "When I modify their machines with human ideas, they become more powerful than the aliens intended. They break their own safety limits." He showed them his latest creation. It looked like a normal alien power cell, but Sang-Ho had changed the internal circuits using human engineering principles. Instead of producing steady, predictable energy, it generated wild fluctuations that somehow produced 3 times more power than it should have been able to make. "The aliens design everything to be stable and controlled," he said. "But humans design things to be adaptable and surprising. When you combine both approaches, you get results that neither species could achieve alone." Da-Un had joined their group after escaping from her laboratory. The alien monitoring systems had finally detected her secret research, and she had barely escaped before security forces arrived. Now she worked with Sang-Ho to understand how they could use hybrid human-alien technology to achieve the impossible. The alien ships use something they call dimensional folding to travel faster than light, she explained. They create a bubble around their ship that exists partially outside normal space. But their version is very conservative. They only fold space a little bit, just enough to go faster than light safely. She drew diagrams on the tunnel wall with chalk. "But what if we folded space completely? What if we created a bubble that existed entirely outside normal reality? The aliens would say it is impossible. Their safety protocols would never allow it. But humans are not afraid of impossible things." Mi Young had been working on a different kind of problem. How do you wake up 8 billion people who have been programmed not to think dangerous thoughts? How do you make them remember what they used to be before the aliens changed them? Her solution was art, but not ordinary art. She had discovered that certain combinations of colors, shapes, and sounds could bypass the alien nanobots in human brains. The bots were designed to suppress creativity, but they could not suppress the deep emotional responses that humans had to beauty and truth. "Music is the key," she told the others. "The nanobots can stop people from creating new songs, but they cannot stop people from feeling music. And feeling leads to remembering. Remembering leads to awakening." She had composed a piece of music that told the story of what humanity used to be. It started with sounds of laughter and discovery, the noise of children playing and inventors building. Then it showed the silence that came after the aliens arrived, the flatness, the emptiness. Finally, it ended with a call to remember, to wake up, to be human again. But music alone would not be enough. They needed a way to reach everyone on Earth at the same time, and they needed to do it without the aliens stopping them. Hyejin had been thinking about logistics. Moving 8 billion people off a planet was the largest operation in human history. It would require thousands of ships, perfect coordination, and months of preparation, all while keeping it secret from the most advanced surveillance system ever created. "We cannot build the ships on Earth," she said. "The aliens monitor everything here, but there are places they do not watch carefully. Asteroid mining stations, research outposts on Mars, small colonies that are too remote and insignificant for them to worry about." She had been secretly contacting human settlements throughout the solar system. Many of them had been affected less by the alien changes because they were further from the main control centers. People in space still remembered how to think for themselves. "We tell them we are planning a deep space exploration mission," Hyejin explained. "Something so crazy and dangerous that normal people would never attempt it. The aliens will think we are just being typically human and reckless. They will not realize we are planning to take everyone with us." The plan was taking shape, but it depended on reaching a place that the aliens considered impossible to survive in. Donghyun had found references to it in the data they had stolen from council systems. They called it the Void Nexus, a region of space where normal physics broke down completely. According to alien records, 17 species have tried to hide there over the past million years, Donghyun said. All of them died. The Council considers it a natural barrier that protects the galaxy from dangerous chaos. "But what if they did not die?" Da-un asked. "What if they just changed into something the aliens could not understand or detect?" It was a wild theory, but it gave them hope. If other species had found a way to survive in the Void Nexus, maybe humans could too. Maybe they could find allies there. Maybe they could discover new ways to exist that the Council had never imagined. The first test came sooner than expected. Taemin had been trying to maintain his cover as a loyal Earth diplomat, but the alien monitoring systems were getting suspicious of his behavior. He was asking too many questions and showing too much interest in subjects that controlled humans were supposed to ignore. An alien security team arrived at his office without warning. They looked like the regular council ambassadors, but their movements were sharper and their eyes were colder. They spoke in the same smooth voices, but there was no pretense of friendship now. "We have detected irregular thought patterns in your neural activity," one of them said. "You will submit to recalibration immediately." Taemin knew that recalibration meant having more nanobots inserted into his brain, stronger ones that would erase his memories of the resistance and turn him into a perfect servant. He had to act fast. "Of course," he said, trying to sound calm. "But first, I have important diplomatic documents that need to be secured, state secrets that should not be left unguarded." The aliens agreed to let him lock away his files first. But instead of securing documents, Taemin activated a hidden transmitter that Mi-young had built. It broadcast her awakening music on every frequency the device could reach. The music spread through Seoul like a virus. People walking on the streets stopped and listened. Something stirred in their minds, something that had been sleeping for months. They remembered what it felt like to wonder about things, to dream impossible dreams, to want something more than the safe, controlled life the aliens had given them. The effect was temporary. Within hours, the alien systems would detect the awakening and flood the area with stronger control signals, but it was enough to prove that their plan could work. Meanwhile, Sang-ho had completed the first prototype of their impossible ship. It was built in an abandoned mining station in the asteroid belt, far from alien monitoring. The ship looked like no vessel that had ever been designed. Parts of it flickered in and out of visibility as its experimental drive systems bent space around it. "The aliens think this is just another human failure," Sang-ho reported over their secret communication system. "Their computers predict the ship will explode the moment we try to start it. but their computers do not understand human engineering. The ship did not explode. Instead, it disappeared completely for 30 seconds before reappearing exactly where it had started. Sang-Ho's readings showed that during those 30 seconds, the ship had existed in a space that was not quite real and not quite imaginary. "We can reach the Void Nexus," he said, "but we will need bigger ships, many bigger ships, and we will need to get everyone off Earth before the aliens realize what we are really doing." Da-Un had been working on the evacuation timeline. "We have maybe 6 weeks before the alien control system becomes too strong to overcome," she said. "After that, humans will be too deeply programmed to respond to awakening signals. We have to move everyone before then. 6 weeks to build a fleet of impossible ships. 6 weeks to wake up 8 billion people. 6 weeks to coordinate the largest evacuation in history." It should have been impossible. But the members of Exodus had learned something important about impossible things. Impossible just meant that no one had figured out how to do it yet. And humans were very good at figuring out how to do things that should not work. They had done impossible things before. They had learned to fly when they were supposed to walk. They had gone to space when they were supposed to stay on the ground. They had built computers that could think and robots that could feel. Now they would do the most impossible thing of all. They would take their entire species and disappear into a place where existence itself was just a suggestion. The aliens would never see it coming. The evacuation began on a Tuesday morning when most of the world was still asleep. Hyejin stood in the main control room of their hidden base, watching dozens of screens that showed cities across the planet. Each screen displayed the same miracle, happening in a different place. Humans were waking up. Mi-young's music played from hidden transmitters that Sang-Ho had built into the alien communication network. The song spread through every device on Earth: phones, computers, televisions, even the alien machines themselves. The nanobots in human brains tried to block the music, but they could not stop people from feeling it. In New York, a businessman stopped walking to his office and stared at the sky. He remembered when he used to paint pictures as a child. Tokyo, a teacher began crying as she recalled the poems she used to write before the aliens came. In London, an engineer suddenly understood why all his recent designs looked exactly the same. "Phase 1 is working," Hyejin said into her radio. "People are remembering. How long do we have?" "Maybe 6 hours before the aliens realize what is happening," Dong-hyun replied from his monitoring station. "Their systems are detecting the anomaly, but they think it is just a technical glitch. They are too logical to imagine we could use their own network against them." Around the world, Exodus teams were already moving. They had spent weeks preparing for this moment. Every major city had secret groups ready to guide people to hidden evacuation points. They used old subway tunnels, abandoned buildings, and forgotten underground spaces that the alien scanners could not reach. The awakened humans were confused at first. For months, they had felt content with their quiet, controlled lives. Now they remembered what they had lost: the urge to create, to explore, to ask dangerous questions. Many of them were angry, others were scared, but all of them wanted to be free. Tae-min had escaped from the alien security team and was now helping coordinate evacuations in Seoul. He moved through the crowds of awakening people, trying to keep them calm and organized. It was like trying to direct a river that had suddenly decided to flow uphill. "Listen to me," he told a group of confused citizens. "You are remembering who you really are. The aliens took that away from you, but now you can have it back. We have ships that can take you somewhere safe, somewhere they cannot follow. An old woman grabbed his arm. "My grandson," she said. "He is only 8 years old, but he stopped drawing pictures months ago. Will he remember how to be a child again?" Taemin smiled. "Children remember faster than adults. Your grandson is probably already wondering why he stopped having fun." The evacuation had to look normal to alien observers. Hyjin had planned it like the world's largest magic trick. On the surface, it appeared that humans were simply moving around for routine reasons. Work transfers, family visits, tourism. The aliens saw millions of people traveling, but their computers calculated that this was within normal patterns. What the aliens could not see was that none of those people were coming back. Sang-ho's ship construction teams had been working around the clock. They had built the evacuation fleet in secret locations throughout the solar system. Asteroid mining stations that officially produced nothing but rock. Research bases on Mars that claimed to be studying soil samples. Deep space observatories that were supposed to be looking at distant stars. Each location had become a shipyard. The vessels they built were unlike anything that had ever existed. They combined human creativity with alien technology in ways that should have been impossible. Some ships looked like giant metal flowers that bloomed in space. Others resembled living creatures with wings made of pure light. A few were so strange that human eyes could not quite focus on them properly. "The fleet is ready," Sang-ho reported. "We have enough ships to carry everyone, but they are all experimental. I cannot promise they will all survive the journey to the Void Nexus." "How many do you think we will lose?" Hyjin asked. "Maybe half. Maybe all of them. This has never been tried before." Dayun was making final calculations for the reality bridge, the massive device that would tear open a passage to the Void Nexus. She had built it using principles that violated everything she had learned about physics. It worked by convincing space itself that the impossible was actually possible. "The bridge will only stay open for a few hours," she explained to the evacuation leaders. "After that, the strain will destroy it. We get one chance to get everyone through." The first sign that the aliens had noticed something wrong came at noon. Alien ships that had been floating peacefully above major cities suddenly began moving. Their scanning beams swept across the earth like giant spotlights, searching for the source of the disturbance. "They know people are missing," Wu Jin reported, from his military monitoring station. "They are trying to count how many humans are still on the planet, but our decoy systems are confusing their sensors." The decoy systems were Mi Young's idea. She had created thousands of false human signatures using modified alien technology. To the council scanners, it looked like Earth still had its full population, but the deception would not last long. Taemin was leading the last group of evacuees from Seoul when the alien security forces finally found him. 3 tall figures in silver armor descended from the sky, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. They moved with mechanical precision, but Taemin could see something like anger in their black eyes. "You have violated the Stellar Compact," one of them said. "Return the stolen humans immediately." "They are not stolen," Taemin replied. "They chose to leave. That is what free beings do. Freedom is chaos. Chaos leads to suffering. We brought order and peace to your species. You brought slavery. You just made it comfortable enough that we did not notice the chains." The aliens raised their weapons, but before they could fire, the air around them began to shimmer. Dong Hyun's Chaos Protocol was affecting their targeting systems. The aliens were too orderly to adapt quickly to randomly changing conditions. Taemin used the confusion to escape with his group. They reached the evacuation tunnels just as alien ships began. landing all over the city. The council had finally decided to act directly. In space, the evacuation fleet was already moving toward the rendezvous point. Each ship carried thousands of humans who stared out windows at stars they had never expected to see. Many of them were still adjusting to being fully awake for the first time in months. "Are we really doing this?" asked a woman who had been a controlled accountant just hours before. "Are we really leaving everything behind?" "Everything we are leaving behind was already lost," replied the ship's captain, a former artist who now piloted a vessel that painted trails of light across the vacuum. "We are not running away. We are running toward something better." The council fleet was massive. Hundreds of alien warships emerged from hidden positions throughout the solar system. They had been prepared for human rebellion, but not for human disappearance. Their weapons were designed to destroy enemy fleets, not to chase refugees into impossible spaces. "They are trying to surround us," Wu Jin reported from the command ship. "But they do not understand our flight patterns. They expect us to move in straight lines and follow predictable tactics." The human ships moved like a school of fish or a flock of birds. They changed direction randomly, helped each other when attacked, and somehow stayed together without any central coordination. The alien computers could not calculate where they would go next because the humans themselves did not know. Dae-Yun activated the reality bridge when the human fleet reached the edge of the solar system. Space tore open like a curtain being ripped apart. Beyond the tear was not darkness, but something that hurt to look at directly. It was every color and no color at the same time. It was movement without direction and stillness without peace. "The void nexus," she whispered. "It is really there." The alien fleet arrived just as the first human ships began passing through the tear in space. The council commander sent a final message to the fleeing humans. His voice was cold with anger and something that might have been fear. "You go to your deaths," he said. "Nothing can survive in that place. The void nexus destroys everything that enters it. Your chaos will be the end of you." Tae-Min, now aboard the command ship, sent back humanity's reply. "Maybe we will die. But we will die as ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, we will find something wonderful in the place you call impossible." The alien ships tried to follow, but their vessels could not handle the chaotic energies around the reality bridge. Several ships that came too close began to malfunction as their orderly systems were overwhelmed by pure possibility. One by one, the human ships passed through the tear in reality. Families holding hands as their vessel entered a space that should not exist. Scientists taking readings of phenomena that had no names. Children laughing as they saw colors that had never been seen before. Sang-Ho was on the last ship to pass through. He stayed behind to make sure everyone else made it safely, just as he had always planned. As his ship approached the bridge, he looked back at the solar system where humanity had been born. The alien fleet hung in space like metal vultures, unable to follow where humans dared to go. Earth was a blue dot in the distance, beautiful and sad. It would go on without them. But it would never be the same. "Goodbye," Sang-Ho whispered as his ship passed through the reality bridge. Behind them, the bridge collapsed. The tear in space sealed itself with a sound like the universe sighing. The aliens were left alone with their empty victory and their impossible defeat. Humanity had done what 17 other species had attempted and failed. They had escaped into the void nexus. Whether they would survive there remained to be seen. But they would face that unknown future as free beings, with their creativity intact and their spirits unbroken. In the alien fleet, The council commander stared at the empty space where the bridge had been. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he did not understand. It might have been respect, or it might have been envy. The humans had chosen death over slavery, and somehow that choice made them more alive than anyone the council had ever known. The first thing Hae-Jin noticed about the Void Nexus was that her watch had stopped working. Not broken, just stopped. The hands pointed to random times that changed when she was not looking. Around her, the command ship's instruments showed readings that made no sense. Temperature gauges displayed colors instead of numbers. Distance meters counted backwards from infinity. "Where are we?" asked Tae-min, looking out the main window. Outside was not space as they knew it. There were no stars, no planets, no familiar darkness dotted with light. Instead, there was something that looked like a vast ocean made of liquid starlight, flowing in directions that did not exist. "Somewhere impossible," Da-un replied, studying her readings with fascination rather than fear. "The laws of physics are more like suggestions here. Gravity works sideways sometimes, light moves in spirals, time runs backwards every few minutes." The human fleet floated in this strange space like boats on an alien sea. Each ship looked different now. The chaotic energies of the Void Nexus had changed them. Some vessels had grown wings of pure energy. Others had developed hulls that shifted, colors like living skin. A few ships had multiplied, becoming small fleets of identical copies. But the humans inside were changing too. And unlike the changes the aliens had forced on them, these changes felt right. Mi-young was the first to notice her new abilities. She was trying to paint what she saw outside the ship, but every time she put brush to canvas, the painting became real. She painted a small bird, and it flew off the canvas to perch on her shoulder. She painted a flower, and it bloomed in her hand, smelling like memories of spring. "I think the Void Nexus responds to creativity," she told the others. "Our thoughts and dreams can become real here." Dong-hyun felt his mind expanding in ways he had never imagined. He could think about ideas that had no words, understand concepts that should have been impossible to grasp. When he tried to write down his thoughts, the words rearranged themselves on the page to say things he had not meant to write, but somehow knew were true. "This place is alive," he said. "Not alive like an animal or a plant. Alive like thought itself. It thinks with us, dreams with us, creates with us." As the human fleet drifted deeper into the Void Nexus, they began to see signs that they were not alone. Structures floated in the liquid light that surrounded them. Buildings that looked like crystallized music. Cities that grew like flowers from seeds of pure imagination. Gardens where the plants were made of mathematics and poetry. "There are others here," Wu Jin reported from his monitoring station. "I am picking up signals that might be communication attempts, but they are not like any language we know. The signals were colors that sang, shapes that spoke, emotions that could be touched and held." Slowly, the humans began to understand that these were messages from the 17 species that had fled to the Void Nexus before them. They had not died, as the Council believed. They had transcended. The first contact came when a ship approached the human fleet. It was not built from metal and circuits like human or alien vessels. Instead, it seemed to be constructed from crystallized thoughts and frozen dreams. The beings inside were once like humans, but they had changed over the centuries they had spent in the Void Nexus. They called themselves the Void Touched, and they welcomed humanity with joy that could be felt across space. New dreamers have. Come, their leader communicated through images that appeared directly in human minds. We have waited so long for others who chose freedom over safety, chaos over order. The void touched had once been a species called the Resonari, who had fled the Council 3,000 years ago. They looked like humans might look if humans were made of living crystal and starlight. Their thoughts were visible as aurora patterns that danced around their heads. The Council fears this place because they cannot understand it, the Resonari leader explained. They think in terms of rules and limitations. But the Void Nexus is pure potential. Here, what you can imagine, you can become. They showed the humans how to survive in their new home. Food could be created from thought and will. Shelter could be built from crystallized emotions. Energy came from the joy of creation itself. The Void Nexus provided everything its inhabitants needed, but only if they were brave enough to dream it into existence. Hyojin found herself leading not just the human refugees, but serving as an ambassador to all the species that had found sanctuary in the Void Nexus. Each species had brought their own gifts to this impossible place. The Harmonari sang reality into new shapes. The Void Dancers moved through space-time as easily as walking through air. The Crystal Builders constructed cities from pure mathematics. We are all refugees here, she said during the first meeting of the Reality Compact, the alliance of free species that governed the Void Nexus. We all chose the unknown over slavery. That makes us family. But humanity brought something unique to the Void Nexus, where other species had adapted to their new home slowly over centuries. Humans began changing it immediately. Their chaotic creativity mixed with the realm's infinite possibilities in ways that surprised even the ancient Void touched. Taemin discovered he could negotiate with reality itself. When he needed a bridge to cross a chasm of liquid time, he simply convinced the space between 2 points that it was shorter than it appeared. When his ship needed repairs, he talked the broken parts into fixing themselves. Humans do not just adapt to new rules, observed an ancient void-touched philosopher whose species had been in the Nexus for millions of years. You make new rules. You convince reality that impossible things are actually quite reasonable. Da-Un had become something, like a reality architect. She could design new physical laws and test them in small pocket universes. She created spaces where up was sideways, where cause followed effect, where music had mass and light had flavor. Each experiment taught her more about the true nature of existence. The Council thinks reality is fixed, she explained to a gathering of scientists from different species. But reality is more like clay. It can be shaped by those who understand how to work with it. Humans just happen to be natural sculptors. The Void Nexus began to change as humanity settled into it. New continents of crystallized dreams formed in the liquid light ocean. Cities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously grew from seeds of human imagination. Gardens where flowers bloomed into tiny universes appeared wherever humans walked. Mi Young had become something like a goddess of creation. Her art no longer just existed in the Void Nexus, it became part of the Nexus itself. She painted new colors that had never existed before. She sculpted emotions into living beings. She composed symphonies that grew into entire worlds where the music was the landscape. I used to think art was about copying reality, she said to a group of young human artists who were learning to paint with light itself. But here, art is about creating new realities. Every brushstroke makes something new exist. The children adapted fastest of all. Human children who had been born in the Void Nexus could do things that amazed even the ancient Void touched. They played games that created temporary universes. They told stories that became living myths. They drew pictures that walked off the page and became new forms of life. One child, a little girl named So Young, accidentally created a pet dragon while trying to draw her cat. The dragon was small and friendly and breathed bubbles instead of fire, but it was completely real and completely alive. When asked how she had done it, So Young just shrugged and said, "I wanted my cat to be more interesting." Dong Hyun had established what he called the Academy of Impossible Things, where humans and void-touched learned from each other. The academy existed in a space that was simultaneously a library, a laboratory, and a playground. Students could study the history of 17 extinct civilizations, experiment with new forms of mathematics, and play games that taught them how to think in dimensions that did not have names. Education here is not about learning facts, Dong Hyun explained to new teachers. It is about learning how to learn things that are not yet true, and then making them true through understanding. The reality compact grew stronger as more species contributed their unique gifts. The Harmonari taught humans how to sing space into new configurations. The Void Dancers showed them how to move through time like swimming through water. The Crystal Builders shared their knowledge of how to make permanent structures from temporary thoughts. But humanity's greatest contribution was their refusal to accept limitations. Where other species saw barriers, humans saw puzzles to be solved. Where others saw impossibilities, humans saw opportunities for new discoveries. "Before humans came," said an elder void-touched during a reality compact meeting, "we thought we had learned everything the Nexus could teach us. We had adapted to this place and found peace. But humans do not adapt. They transform. They do not find peace. They create excitement. They have reminded us that existence is not about finding perfect answers. It is about asking better questions." As their first year in the Void Nexus ended, humanity had not just survived in the impossible place. They had begun to make it their own. They had built cities that sang, grown forests of living light, and started families whose children could paint with reality itself. But they had not forgotten the galaxy they had left behind, and some of them were beginning to wonder if it was time to remind the Council that impossible things had a way of becoming possible when humans put their minds to it. The Void Nexus had given them more than sanctuary. It had given them power, beyond the Council's imagination, and humans had never been good at keeping quiet about their discoveries. 2 years after humanity vanished into the Void Nexus, the Galactic Council was dying. Not from war or disease, but from something far worse for a civilization built on order and control. They were dying from chaos. The council chamber on the capital world of Nexaria looked like a broken machine. Half the seats were empty because entire species had stopped responding to council communications. The remaining council members sat in perfect rows, but their perfect composure was cracking. Their black eyes, once so confident and cold, now showed something they had not felt in millions of years. Fear. "Report," commanded the High Counselor, his metal-smooth voice carrying the slightest tremor. "Sector 7 has experienced another creativity storm," reported a junior counselor. 3-star systems affected. Their industrial worlds have stopped producing according to specifications. Factory workers are improvising, making things that are not in their programming." "What kind of things?" "Art, music, stories, and worse, they are making new technology, technology that works better than ours, but we cannot understand how. The High Counselor's perfect face showed the first crack of emotion in 1,000 years. Show me. The main screen displayed images from a factory world that had been producing the same type of power cell for 6 centuries without variation. Now the workers were modifying the designs, adding unnecessary curves and patterns that somehow made the cells more efficient. Children who should have been in training programs were instead playing games they had invented themselves. Adults who should have been following daily routines were asking questions about why things worked the way they did. The pattern is spreading, another counselor reported. Each world affected by creativity storms seems to infect nearby systems. Our predictive models are useless. We cannot calculate how chaos behaves. But the creativity storms were only the beginning of the Council's problems. The portal that humanity had torn through reality to reach the void nexus had left permanent damage to the fabric of space-time itself. Reality had a wound that would not heal, and through that wound, impossible. Things were seeping into the ordered galaxy. On the mining world of Keltari, gravity had started flowing upward on Tuesdays. On the research station of Vex Prime, mathematics had developed a sense of humor, and equations would sometimes solve themselves with funny answers. On the agricultural planet of Harvest, plants had begun growing in colors that did not exist and producing fruit that tasted like childhood memories. The Council's technology was failing in unpredictable ways. Ships designed to last forever were breaking down after encountering pockets of creativity energy. Communication networks that had operated flawlessly for millennia were starting to carry music and poetry along with official messages. Even the Council's perfect language was changing as new words appeared that described feelings and concepts the Council had forgotten existed. "We must find a way to reverse this," the High Counselor declared. "Send exploration fleets to locate the human refugees. If we can recapture them and harvest their creativity properly, we can use their chaos to repair the damage they have caused." But finding humanity would prove more difficult than the Council imagined. In the Void Nexus, Wu Jin had become something like a general of impossible forces. He no longer commanded ships and soldiers in the traditional sense. Instead, he led expeditions through the Chaos Realm, mapping regions where reality worked differently and discovering new forms of existence that could be weaponized if necessary. His latest mission had taken him to the edge of the Void Nexus, where it touched normal space. There, he had made a disturbing discovery. The Council was trying to build machines that could detect and enter the Chaos Realm. "They are learning," he reported to Hyajin during a reality compact meeting. "Slowly, but they are learning. They are studying the damage their universe suffered when we escaped, and they are using that knowledge to try to follow us." Hyajin, now the elected leader of the reality compact, listened to the reports from all 17 refugee species. Each had scouts watching their former oppressors, and all brought the same news. The Council civilizations were changing, but not in the way humanity had hoped. "They are not learning to be free," said the Resonari elder, whose crystal body flickered with worried colors. "They are learning to control chaos. They want to turn our gift of creativity into another tool of oppression." But some Council species were changing in different ways. On worlds far from the capital, where the creativity storms hit hardest, entire populations were remembering what it felt like to think original thoughts. They were not just following orders anymore. They were asking why the orders existed in the first place. Da-Yun had been monitoring these developments from her reality laboratory in the Void Nexus. She had built instruments that could observe normal space without being detected, watching as the galaxy she once called home transformed in unexpected ways. "There are rebellions starting," she reported. "Not violent ones, quiet ones. Species that have been loyal to the Council for millions of years are simply stopping. They are not attacking Council forces or declaring war. They are just refusing to participate in the system anymore." The reports painted a picture of a galaxy in slow-motion collapse. Without the creative energy they had harvested from subject species, the Council worlds were stagnating. Their technology was becoming obsolete. Their culture was becoming repetitive and boring. Worst of all, their populations were beginning to question the system that had kept them in power for so long. Mi Young had been working on something she called inspiration seeds, small works of art that could survive in normal space and gradually awaken creativity in anyone who encountered them. Each seed was designed to be subtle, beautiful enough to attract attention, but not so obviously dangerous that Council security would destroy it immediately. "I have been sending them through the reality cracks," she explained to the assembled reality compact. "Tiny sculptures that look like decorative objects, songs encoded in the patterns of space dust, paintings hidden in the light frequencies of distant stars. They are spreading through the galaxy, one mind at a time." The seeds were working better than she had hoped. Council citizens who found them experienced something they had not felt in generations: wonder, a curiosity about what else might be possible, a desire to create something new instead of endlessly repeating the old patterns. Taemin had taken on the role of ambassador to the awakening species, using his reality manipulation abilities to communicate with rebels across the galaxy. He could project his consciousness through the chaos cracks, appearing as visions or dreams to those who were ready to hear humanity's message. "The revolution is not happening the way revolutions usually do," he reported. "There are no armies or battles. Instead, people are simply choosing to live differently. They are making art, asking questions, and refusing to accept that things have to stay the same forever." But the Council was not giving up without a fight. Unable to recapture humanity directly, they had begun developing new weapons designed to destroy creativity itself. Reality bombs that would turn chaos back into rigid order. Mind viruses that would make free thinking impossible. Dimensional barriers that would seal off the Void Nexus forever. The final confrontation came when a massive Council fleet appeared at the boundary between normal space and the Void Nexus. Unlike their previous attempts to enter the Chaos Realm, this time they were prepared. Their ships had been modified with creativity-dampening fields. Their weapons were designed to impose order on chaos. Their crew members had been programmed to resist any influence that might make them think independently. The High Counselor himself led the fleet, his perfect face twisted with something that might have been desperation or rage. "Humans of Earth," his voice boomed across dimensions, somehow reaching every corner of the Void Nexus. "You have poisoned our galaxy with your chaos. You will return with us and submit to proper control, or we will destroy everything you have built in this impossible place." The response came not from humanity alone, but from all 17 species of the Reality Compact. It was Dong-Hyun who spoke for them, his words carrying the weight of impossible truths made real. "You still do not understand," he said, his voice reaching the Council fleet through reality itself. "We did not come here to hide from you. We came here to become something you could never imagine, and now we offer you the same choice we faced. Join us in the adventure of unlimited possibility, or remain trapped in your cage of false security. The High Counselor's response was predictable. We choose order, we choose sanity, we choose survival. Then you choose extinction, Dong-hyun replied sadly. Because a universe without creativity is a universe without a future. The battle that followed was unlike any conflict in galactic history. The Council fleet attacked with weapons that tried to force reality back into rigid patterns. But the Reality Compact defended with tools that turned those attacks into opportunities for new creation. Every missile fired became a flower. Every energy beam became a song. Every attempt to impose order became a celebration of beautiful chaos. Da-yun stood at the center of the Void Nexus and offered the Council fleet one final choice. She opened doorways to normal space, not as tiers that would damage reality, but as bridges that would heal it. The choice was simple. Cross the bridge and learn to think freely, or remain in normal space and watch their civilization crumble under the weight of its own rigid limitations. Some chose the bridge. Individual ships, then entire squadrons, broke away from the Council fleet and crossed into the Void Nexus. Their crews, freed from the mental conditioning that had controlled them for generations, experienced creativity for the first time. Many of them wept, others laughed. All of them wondered why they had waited so long to feel truly alive, but the High Counselor and his most loyal followers chose differently. They retreated back into normal space, sealing themselves behind barriers of their own making. They would rather rule over a dying galaxy than live as equals in a chaotic paradise. The war was over, but the transformation was just beginning. In the years that followed, the galaxy became a very different place. The Reality Compact grew as more species chose freedom over security. New worlds were created in the spaces between reality and dream. Children born in the expanding chaos realms could paint with starlight and sing new universes into existence. 30. Council still existed, but their empire had shrunk to a few dozen worlds populated by beings who had forgotten how to imagine anything different. They were not destroyed, just irrelevant. The galaxy had moved beyond them. Mi-young established schools throughout normal space where beings could learn to create without fear. Tai-min became an ambassador to newly awakened civilizations, helping them discover what freedom really meant. Dae-yoon built reality bridges that connected the Void Nexus to every corner of the galaxy, making it possible for anyone to choose their own level of existence. Hye-jin, now an elder stateswoman of a cosmic civilization, established the Freedom Protocols. Laws that ensured no species would ever again face the choice between slavery and exile. The protocols were simple. Every thinking being had the right to think freely, create freely, and become whatever their imagination could envision. And Dong-hyun, the philosopher who had taught humanity to embrace chaos, founded the University of Impossible Things, where students from 1,000 worlds learned that the only real limitation was the willingness to accept limitations. The story ended not with conquest, but with invitation. Throughout the galaxy, on worlds both chaotic and ordered, children looked up at stars that now twinkled with possibility. Some of those stars were actually tiny universes created by young artists learning to paint with reality itself. Others were ships carrying explorers to dimensions that had not existed until someone dreamed them into being. The Council had tried to harvest human creativity. Instead, humans had planted seeds of creativity throughout the galaxy. They had not just escaped their oppressors. They had transformed oppression itself into an opportunity for growth. The universe would never be the same. And somewhere in the swirling chaos of the void nexus, humanity smiled and wondered what impossible thing they should try next. After all, they were just getting started.